Like the rest of starved Star Wars fans and other dismally hopeful sci-fi enjoyers, I was ecstatic to hear about the creator. Promising a unique story that tackles complex issues, many of which are still evolving in our present moment, the creator was a return to big original sci-fi. Finally, we cried. Hope for the creative. Opportunity for something new. It's sad that finished CGI and an original story is all that's required to convince modern audiences to buy a ticket, but I have to admit, I was salivating as I sat in my theater seat, open to whatever the creator wanted to be. And then the opening credits rolled. Not even 5 minutes into the creator, I was struck with disappointment. The film announces itself with a comical lack of nuance that persists for the entirety of its runtime, and sadly, reflects how formulaic and safe this film truly is. I am baffled by reviews that call the creator, to quote the incredibly misaligned BBC, a jaw-droppingly distinct sci-fi. It takes no longer than 2 minutes for the film to prove this quote dishonest, with the film's opening telling the audience that AI has been invented, became increasingly involved in human life, and was even able to begin adopting the likeness of people. And, oh yeah, it dropped a nuke, killing millions of innocent Americans for no explainable reason. Cut to a nameless American general puppeteering the speech of a determinist dictator. We will stop at nothing until all AI is exterminated. At least you know which side he's on. The setup is followed by an introduction to our protagonist. Meet white bread personified Josh Taylor, an amputee American undercover agent trying to locate the creator of all AI, Nirmata. Taylor is positioned in New Asia, a global superpower which inexplicably fights to preserve the very AI that is proven capable of random mass genocide. This is where the illogical world building begins and never ends, resulting in more than a couple of scenes where audience intrigue is superseded by confusion. It seems that, while deployed, Taylor made the grave mistake of falling in love. Maya, a human AI sympathizer, is also the soon-to-be mother to Taylor's child. However, tragedy strikes when America preemptively launches a missile from their AI-hunting death ship, the Nomad, seemingly killing Maya and sending Taylor down a road of disillusionment. 5 years later, he is recruited by the army to continue the hunt for Nirmata's newest AI weapon, with Taylor only agreeing to participate after learning Maya may still be alive. On the hunt, Taylor learns the weapon is an AI child, one that just might lead him to Maya, and was seemingly designed with the intention of bringing down Nomad via the power to control technology. While the premise sounds interesting, it is an execution where the film deflates before even taking a breath. Maya and Taylor's relationship, the sole motivator for Taylor and by extension the plot, is established ineffectively with cliche prose and surface level dialogue lacking any semblance of subtext. I love you, Maya. I am nothing without you. This is real. That child is real. I can only remember these lines because of how unexpectedly formulaic they were. I've heard them 1,000 times before, not only in worse films, but better ones that would use Taylor's cliche declarations as setup for subversion. Right off the bat, characters say exactly what they mean, and it doesn't help that this dialogue is played over vague imagery of the two lovers running aimlessly on a beach, the universal trope to visually represent ideal love. Forgive my long-winded analysis, but I believe it's crucial to communicate just how quickly the film fails at everything it promised. Within its prologue and opening scene, the creator went from an exciting, unique, endless world of possibilities to a watered-down mess of cliches that fails to develop the emotion needed to have the audience engage with Taylor, his desire for Maya, his journey, and as a result, the movie as a whole. Most interestingly, the film's lack of thematic depth reveals another way in which the creator deceives its audience with its marketing. This is not a movie about AI. Let me explain. The plot centers around AI, and the world is inhabited by AI robots living amongst humans, but there is nothing new said about AI in its unique place in our modern day. Instead, the creator reaches into decades of sci-fi stories to tell another allegorical tale of oppression. And by no means arguing that these themes are not worth tackling. Some of the greatest and most impactful movies ever made have been sci-fi films that reflect society's issues back onto its population. However, the reason those themes worked in other sci-fi movies was because they were 1, fully developed, and 2, absolutely relevant to their time and place in history. The world is still rampant with sickening oppression, but that is also a concept understood by nearly everyone in the audience, which doesn't make it any less incredibly depressing, but that's kind of the facts. What isn't understood though is AI, also known as the designing principle of the entire film. One that somehow manages to have nothing new or unique to say about its own subject matter teeming with thematic potential. Humans are entering an equally terrifying and exciting era of technology with AI. There are questions we can only hope to ponder regarding the potential for this advanced tech, questions that could have been explored through the very human medium of film. Instead, the creator is only timely because of its repetition, and thus fails to deliver anything new, exciting, or nuanced in its themes or plot. Lack of nuance and formulaic tendencies poison the film's core and corrodes the rest of its elements like a disease. Quickies. This primarily manifests, as I've already discussed, in its themes, but also in character, dialogue, and overall tone placed alongside narrative beats. This film's cast is one of caricatures, a hodgepodge of diametrically opposed humans and AI that are defined simply by the side they fight for and archetype they're based on. I remember Taylor's name, but don't let that bare minimum fool you, as Taylor is not an exception to the apparent demands that all characters remain static impersonations of tired tropes. His desires rarely change, as he is only driven by his relentless pursuit for Maya. While the narrative may alter his story's context, Taylor is rarely pushed or pulled into any interesting direction. He's instead told that he has to accept what the movie wants him to become. Beginning the film as an AI cynic, Taylor's arc is one of acceptance. However, he learns this lesson not from seeing the life within the technology he initially views as soulless via an impassioned journey with an innocent AI child, but instead by being directly related to his child companion. That's right, Nirmata is Maya. And she modeled her super weapon child after her and Taylor's own. While this moment may read as profound, in reality, it reduces Taylor's potential for change. Now he can't not be an AI favoritist, lest he be the worst father ever to his as close to literal child as possible. Since I finished speaking on Taylor's staticness, I can finally look up the names of the side characters. The child's name is Alfie, and while the actor certainly performs, their character failed to do so. Alfie and Taylor share a connection formed exclusively through exchanges every reluctant parent character has had with their surrogate child. Let's play a game. It's called Get in the Fucking Car. Reading like a line from the MCU's most dismal comic efforts, these forced comical insertions make for tonal whiplash and repetitive conversations between the relationship that is meant to drive the entire movie. When the two aren't rehashing the same dynamic we've seen in popular media dozens of times in recent years, they attempt to have conversations that develop the film's themes with equal missing grace. When the two are in line and a robot asks Alfie what she wishes for, the child states, "For robots to be free," with puppy dog eyes that try to use their cuteness to mask the comical overtness of this thematic declaration that only reinforces the film's lack of subtlety. "You won't go to heaven because you're not a good person. I won't go because I'm not a person." The line that promised a story of complex morality in every trailer actually comes during an awkward bus ride where the writers must have realized that Taylor has such little depth that someone needed to speak a layer of complexity into existence. Rarely, if ever, are Taylor's actions critiqued or commented on by others, and yet the film proclaims he's an anti-hero stuck between sides of gray and gray. This just couldn't be further from the truth, as the creator doesn't exist in a liminal space of questionable morality, but a world blanketed by black and white. On America's side, we have the legendary, no-nonsense Colonel Howell, who is a colonel, hates AI, and is haunted by the atrocities she's seen in the human-AI conflict. Then there's McBride, the no-nonsense soldier who hates AI and is haunted by the atrocities he's seen in the human-AI conflict. Okay, I'll admit, they have marginal differences. For example, McBride has fewer lines. Add on a couple nameless extras, and you've got yourself a faceless crew of AI hunting humans perfectly fit for this middle-of-the-road sci-fi adventure. Of course, the characters are all business except one cracking poorly timed wise ones that, again, only reminded me of the MCU's forced comedy in their recent outputs. In fact, comedy supersedes logic and tone more than once in the film's runtime, as if the film's logic was consistent enough to even deserve attention. Both in structure and world building, the film fails to define itself. Beginning at a breakneck pace and refusing to halt into a climax that drags painfully, creator has a structure that seems almost opposite of what any viewer actually wants. Yes, an interesting hook is necessary, but ebbs and flows of tension are as well. Instead, the creator prioritizes admittedly impressive visual effects and spectacle over sensible pacing or internal story logic. For example, in the film's climax, Taylor and Alfie board Nomad in an attempt to free all AI. However, the film's consistently abhorrent and confused editing is revealed when paired with a countdown clock, as a 3-foot Alfie travels across an entire military ship in a matter of minutes. Then later on, Taylor is seen scrounging the same tunnels in a handful of seconds. This is indicative of the many ways the film forces its characters into plot points, not because it makes sense for the narrative, characters, themes, pacing, etc., but because the movie necessitates it. Oh yeah, we need the AI to not be just bad guys. How about we say the nuke that caused the entire war was detonated thanks to a coding error? Crucial lines that are required to understand the world's internal logic and nuance are tossed around like candy with little emphasis, only adding to the confusion as I double take. Did they just gloss over the fact that humans colonize the moon? And because these showcases of spectacle lack narrative depth, subtext, or emotional weight, they ironically come off as hollow and repetitive instead of exciting, thereby having the adverse effect of actually slowing the film's pace. The result? An explosive journey that was hard to stay awake through. The world itself is as disappointing as the pacing, because what is given to the audience is admittedly impressive when it makes sense. While the creator is built on the weak support of fallacies and poorly developed world building, its one truth is that the film does have an original universe. Sure, it's Earth, but there's technology advanced enough to warrant at least a conversation about their thought-provoking implications. Taking a human's dying consciousness and sticking into an AI, allowing a man to see his body from the outside, invites a plethora of interesting thematic questions. As is a world where lying is made impossible possible due to mind scanning technology, or where clones essentially exist with humans having the option to donate their likeness for AI identities, or where AI are conscious while being built. Imagine being alive and conscious while being born. That has to raise some questions, doesn't it? However, the creator ignores the meaning behind its impressive imagery, just as it opts for spectacle over both logic and heart. Which brings me back to why this film left me as upset as it did. I don't pick apart movies because it's fun to hate things I wanted to enjoy. While I love criticizing, it's not for any amount of pleasure gained by vocalizing hatred. I desperately wanted the creator to be everything it promised. I've spent the past few years pleading for originality in Star Wars, revisiting Destiny 2 just for the atmosphere, and rewatching Blade Runner 2049 because it's just literally me. Instead of a fresh reiteration on iconic aesthetics for the presentation of thematically unique and relevant subject matter, instead of a return to the big original sci-fi of yesteryear, the creator retreads paths worn tired by its inspirations and contemporaries. For all of its failures, the film's greatest sin is unoriginality.